For women received unlimited cards, but the maid's surprising action revealed an incredible truth. Jessica stood in her small apartment, her heart racing as she scrolled through social media. Overly curated posts from Mia, Sarah, and Lauren flashed like neon lights, each one highlighting their newest purchases and business launches. For a moment, excitement coursed through her. The world was a blank canvas, and her dream cafe was just a swipe away. But beneath that thrill rested a gnawing unease. What if her cafe failed? What if she became just another story of a hopeful entrepreneur turned bitter and broke? The weight of her family's expectations pressed hard on her chest. She could feel the judgment and whispers of "I told you so" growing louder. At the diner, their laughter had filled the space, but lately, it felt more brittle. No longer were they four friends bound by dreams. Instead, they had morphed into competitors, each vying for attention, for recognition, even among themselves. The thought sickened her. She loved these women. How could she feel so threatened? The credit cards served not just as a gift, but also as a test of their loyalty. Could they withstand the weight of ambition without buckling under strain? As she picked a donut off the plate, she found herself hesitating. It was like her dreams were just as far away as the last bite she'd yet to take. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she sank deeper into her thoughts, an image of Rosa, their steadfast maid, flickered in her mind. Rosa had always been a beacon of wisdom, her tireless dedication a reminder of the true burdens of responsibility. But recently, Jessica sensed a shift in Rosa's demeanor. An uncharacteristic sadness marred her usually warm smile. What did Rosa think of their reckless spending, of their petty squabbles? Did she see them as lost souls, more concerned about their selfies than their friendships? The women were gathered at Lauren's house, tension crackling in the room as they argued over whose business idea was better. Jessica felt the heat rise in her chest. The very competition that excited her was now suffocating her spirit. She shot a glance at Sarah, who looked more determined than ever, armed with spreadsheets and projections. Mia's cool detachment felt sharper than blades. And Lauren, always poised, had the facade of confidence that Jessica envied. But, as their voices elevated, a truth loomed. They were losing sight of what mattered each other. Rosa's voice broke through the chaos as she stepped into the living room. "Let me share something with you," she began, her tone steady but strained. Jessica felt her stomach knot. What could Rosa possibly say to soothe this raw tension? As she listened, an ember of desperation flickered in Jessica's heart. Would Rosa's story remind them of the sacrifices made for their dreams? Or would it just unveil more fractures, digging the knife deeper into their tangled friendships? The room quieted, but the emotional storm swirled relentlessly. Jessica could feel that something had to shift, but the stakes were high. What if they unraveled? The thought sent icy tendrils of fear through her. What would become of them? Would they ever find their way back to the friendship that ignited them years ago? Or was this competition destined to sever their bonds forever? As Rosa prepared to reveal the dusty box of letters that could hold pivotal truths, a thick silence enveloped them. Tension lingered thick in the air, leaving an unsettling question lingering like a ghost. What would be the cost of realizing the truth? Jessica's heart raced, caught in the taut tension of the room. She glanced at her friends, their faces a collage of defiance and uncertainty, the laughter now replaced by an electric stillness. Rosa's grip on the box tightened, the weight of the moment palpable. What had these letters been tucked away for so long to conceal? Were they echoes of their shared dreams or reminders of ambitions that had grown toxic? "Please, listen closely," Rosa said softly, measuring each word as if it were a precious gift. As the old letters spilled out, yellowed with age and barely legible, It was as if time folded in on itself, summoning memories from a simpler time when they had mattered more to each other than to the world. Jessica fought to focus, feeling as though she were standing at the edge of a precipice, unsure whether to leap or retreat. "Before I met you all," Rosa began, "I held on to these letters with dreams of a better life. They remind me of all I have sacrificed for those dreams." The room shifted. Jessica's mind raced. Rosa was a constant in their lives, yet all too often, her presence had been relegated to that of an onlooker, her quiet strength a forgotten anchor. What did they truly know about her struggles? The revelation clawed at Jessica's conscience. As the words flowed from Rosa's lips, she felt the walls of her insecurities closing in. Sometimes, Rosa continued, the fear of losing what you love can blind you. Major changes often come with a cost, no matter how beautiful the vision. The honesty in Rosa's voice cut through Jessica's turmoil. It struck her then. The competition with her friends was a reflection of her own fears about her cafe. It wasn't just a business venture. It was wrapped in layers of self-worth, of proving herself not only to her friends but to her family. And somewhere within that chaotic desire for validation, the essence of friendship was about to be drowned. Sarah interrupted, fixing her gaze on Rosa. "But what if the truth hurts? What if it tears us apart more than we already are?" Jessica felt the weight of those words settle around them like a thick fog, amplifying her uncertainty. Rosa turned to Sarah. "True change often comes through discomfort, tests us, makes us stronger. But it is also an opportunity to rebuild, to lay a new foundation." A flicker of hope sparked in Jessica's gut. Maybe this was the truth they needed, not just for themselves, but to cultivate something more fulfilling in their lives. Their reliance on each other had strayed off into jealousy and fear, but they still had the power to choose respect and support. As thoughts flew through her mind, Jessica felt an unexpected surge of determination. Maybe the competition didn't have to be the end. Perhaps it could serve as a catalyst for growth, something to refine, not fracture, their friendships. "Rosa," these letters she began, her voice firm with newfound clarity. But before she could continue, Lauren interjected, "Do you think we can do this together? Can this be a collective reawakening instead of a death knell for our dreams?" The question hung heavy in the air, challenging each of them to confront their real motivations, to question whether they valued success over each other. Jessica's pulse quickened, wrestling with this unfolding reality. The possibility of working together, leaning into each other's strengths rather than exploiting weaknesses, ignited something deep within her. "Maybe we should each invest in one another," Jessica proposed, "not just monetarily but emotionally. Let us support each other through this chaotic journey. It doesn't have to be a race." As murmurs of agreement rose, the air buzzed with potential. Jessica's heart steadied. Behind her, the bustling noise grew softer, drowned out by the melodies of opportunity. But the question lingered. Could they truly reforge their connections? Or would the specter of competition continue to plague them from the shadows? The weight of uncertainty loomed, urging Jessica to take the next step. In the delicate choreography of friendships, this was more than just business. It demanded the revelation of inner selves. Would they rise together or crumble under the pressure? Jessica couldn't shake the looming dread, a whisper that said this was only the beginning of their transformation. As she looked around the room, the challenge to break away from their old patterns awaited, and the stakes had never been higher. Jessica could feel the room shifting, the air thick with possibility and trepidation. Her friend's initial hesitation melted into a collective buzz, a unity kindling as if ignited by Rosa's testimony. Yet she sensed that mere words were insufficient to reshape their intertwined fates. Actions would write the next chapter of their lives. It was time to dissect her fears and unravel her motivations. Caught in the whirlwind of uncertainty, Jessica stepped back within herself, assessing her deepest anxieties. The cafe had once symbolized her independence, a space not only for culinary artistry but for personal expression. Each cake she baked carried reflections of her hopes, but the specter of competition had infiltrated that sanctuary. She now recognized how the fear of others surpassing her had created an internal conflict, blurring her purpose. Resolute, Jessica turned to her friends. Let us share our stories fully. No more hiding behind our ambitions. We should articulate what this competition represents for each of us. She watched as they exchanged glances, a myriad of emotions flickering across their faces. Fine, Sarah said, her voice rising above the murmur. I'll go first. I wanted the cafe because I thought it was what you all expected. Honestly, I thought it would make people proud of me. But, in that pursuit, I've neglected the part of me that simply wants to create. The honesty struck Jessica like an arrow, potent and true. It's not just success that fuels us, Rosa added. It's what we seek to express and how we wish to connect. We have let external measures dictate our ambitions. Jessica nodded, her heart racing as the contours of her identity began to sharpen. She had anchored her worth to external validation, but the thought ignited a spark of anger within. It's time for a radical shift. If we're going to support each other, we need to redefine success, make it a shared vision, where collaboration trumps competition. Instantly, a surge of clarity cascaded through Jessica. The group had veered off course, intoxicated by validation. It was unnecessary. Each of us should host an event at our spaces. Not to compete, but to blend our passions. Think of a culinary tour attendees could experience a flavor journey through our cafe styles. Their eyes widened, echoing surprise and intrigue, and Jessica saw a flicker of inspiration igniting within them. Every dish tells a story, Lauren interjected, her enthusiasm bubbling over. If we each share our unique perspectives, we can add depth to the experience. People will come not just for food, but to resonate with our journeys. Jessica was now on fire, encapsulated in the whirlwind of creation that had been suppressed for too long. Let us put our heads together and create a series of themed nights. A cafe chronicles where we weave in personal tales with our dishes. Food can be a bridge, a means to uncover the shared essence we've lost. As excitement unfurled, Jessica felt the ghosts of insecurity dissipate. The idea of working together harmonized a vision that felt both liberating and exhilarating. Each friend was vital, and the weight of evaluation had shifted from competition to shared exploration, a connectedness she had longed for. Yet, beneath the illumination of camaraderie, an awareness lingered. The notion of baring her artistic soul would expose raw elements of her insecurities, vulnerabilities she avoided swimming into. Would this revelation overshadow their plans, or would it fortify their bond? Before she could spiral deeper into her thoughts, Rosa's voice broke through again. This will be challenging. Rewriting our narratives means confronting our fears head-on, sharing honestly, and possibly facing old wounds. The tension in the room thickened as the implications sunk in. Could they endure the vulnerability that lay ahead? Were they prepared to dissect long-held beliefs, to lay bare their ambitions and wounds? Jessica could nearly feel the tension crackle. The stakes had risen immensely. Encouraged yet hesitant, she clenched her fists. This was not just about business. This was a complex dance of trust, exposing not just their creativity but revealing their true selves. What could emerge from such raw honesty? Would they find strength in their vulnerabilities, or would this endeavor fracture what fragile ties bound them? With her heart racing, Jessica took a deep breath, the balance of exhilaration and trepidation swirling within her. This chapter of exploration was poised to unfurl, and the path ahead shimmered with both peril and promise. They stood at an intersection, and what lay next would demand more than a commitment to collaboration. It required a leap of faith into the depths of their shared truths, a risk she could not ignore. And just as her pulse began to find a steady beat amid the chaos, one looming question echoed through her mind. Would they dare to dive into the depths together, or would they flounder in the murky waters of their insecurities? The answer awaited them. The next morning dawned with a clarity that stirred something new within Jessica. Though she had slept little, the anticipation of their planned collaboration electrified her. Today was the day when abstract ideas could transform into action, and her mind was a torrent of thoughts. Each detail, theme, ideas, recipes to showcase, ways to share their narratives spilled into her notepad like flour cascading from a bag, messy yet full of potential. Jessica sat at her kitchen table, sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating the flour-dusted surface littered with sketches of cake designs and meal pairings. A faint scent of vanilla lingered from yesterday's baking, reminding her of the joy she found in creativity. But today wasn't just about baking. It was about laying bare her very essence. The clock ticked on, each second intensifying the pressure to present her ideas to the group later. Her excitement conflicted with a gnawing anxiety. The prospect of revealing her insecurities felt insurmountable at times. As she mulled over possibilities, doubt crept in, wrapping around her thoughts. What if her friends thought her personal stories weren't compelling enough? What if sharing her truth pushed them away rather than drawing them closer? As she whisked batter for a new recipe, she focused on the rhythmic motion of the mixer, finding solace in the tangible action. Each swirl was a reminder of why she had opened the cafe in the first place. To share, to connect. The adrenaline surged through her veins as a newfound resolve took shape. It was not merely about food. It was about creating a space where each of them could shine, flaws and all. The moment she arrived at the cafe, a palpable energy crackled in the air. The group had gathered earlier than planned, their camaraderie bubbling over with excitement and nervous energy. Jessica observed them. Each was an amalgamation of talent, yet she still felt a thread of fear stitching its way through her heart. Instinctively, she glanced at the baking station, the familiar haven she had cultivated. The thought of exposing her vulnerabilities here felt like standing naked in a crowd. "All right, everyone," she initiated, projecting her voice above the chatter. "Let us dive into what we're all planning for these themed nights. How do we weave in our stories?" Their faces turned toward her, filled with anticipation. "I wrote a piece about my childhood memories tied to baking," Sarah admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "It's a safe space to start, right?" With each story shared Lauren's reflections on family gatherings around food. Rosa's connection to her cultural roots. Jessica could feel the barriers gently lowering, the air filling with a newfound intimacy. Encouraged by their examples, Jessica reached deep within herself, prepared to extract her own truths. Taking a deep breath, Jessica spoke with conviction. "For me, every cake represents a part of my journey. A sweet one brings back the joy of starting this cafe, how meaningful it was to me. But there are other flavors too. There's a bitterness, the fear of not being good enough. Sharing these recipes means sharing my imperfections." The room fell silent, each face reflecting an understanding that transcended mere words. In that instant, Jessica grasped the essence of their collective experience. Vulnerability wouldn't suffocate them. It would offer an opportunity for healing and connection. "Let us not just present our dishes," Rosa chimed in with renewed energy. "Let us make the audience part of our stories. We could even include interactive elements where people can share their own memories." Ideas bounced around the table like popcorn, each suggestion adding to the growing momentum. Yet, as the concepts expanded, so did the tension within Jessica. The thought of opening herself up in such an intimate way, a risk that weighed heavily on her mind, grew both thrilling and terrifying. In the midst of discussions, a hand touched Jessica's shoulder. It was Sarah. "Don't hold back, Jessica. Your story is just as important as ours." A rush of warmth filled Jessica's chest, but doubt still loomed. What exactly would this leap reveal about her? Would her friends see her as she truly was? Or would they construe her deeper struggles as weaknesses? The self-examination stirred hesitation, but she couldn't turn back now. Commitment to her truth had shifted from choice to necessity. That moment, she recognized. This endeavor was not solely about professional success. It was equally about personal growth. Before they could finalize plans, an unexpected message pinged on Jessica's phone. She hesitated, the revelation of her current struggle set to unfurl. What awaited her could reshape everything they had just dared to build. As she glanced at the screen, dread coiled in her stomach. Would this news force her to confront her fears sooner than anticipated? Or was it merely a distraction from the journey they had begun? Only one way to find out. Jessica's fingers trembled as she stared at the message on her phone. The words flashed before her eyes, each letter amplifying the dread already snaking through her mind. It was from her landlord, the subject line brimming with stark finality. "Urgent update about your lease. The room around her swirled in a haze, and for a moment, the laughter and excitement of her friends faded into the background. Anxiety clawed at her chest, echoing her deepest fears, the fear of instability, of failing when she had only just begun to embrace her own story. The cafe had become not just a business, but a canvas for her soul. The thought of losing it now felt unbearable. Jessica? Sarah's voice brought her back, concern etched across her features. Are you okay? With a forced smile, Jessica pocketed her phone, but the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily upon her. I'm fine, she lied, shaking off the temptation to reveal her new worry. If she admitted she was afraid of losing her home, would it cast a shadow over their newfound vulnerability? The discussions around her continued, an intricate tapestry of ideas that spun a web of possibility, yet Jessica remained tethered to her haunting thoughts. An eviction notice, even the mere thought of it, loomed ominously in her mind. How could she open up to her friends when her foundation felt so fragile? As plans solidified exquisite desserts paired with poignant storytelling, she maintained an artificial grin, participating in the conversation while her mind raced. Ideas about interactive audience experiences flowed like a river, while Jessica's thoughts churned like turbulent seas. This was the moment she had dreamed of, a chance for growth. But as excitement climbed, her internal conflict escalated. Moments drifted into each other. Rosa's proposal for a shared cookbook ignited fervor, and Lauren's enthusiasm for decorating the cafe made visions of their collaboration flourish. But as they shaped these dreams, Jessica felt the tether of her reality pull at her. The cafe might not be hers to lose. After all, her lease could be up for renewal, and a new potential tenant could mean she would have to start from scratch. Let us incorporate personal items, Lauren suggested, her eyes sparkling with inspiration. Pictures, handwritten notes, something that represents our journey. It will be storytelling through food and visuals. Jessica's heart raced. This would require her to expose layers of herself, her vulnerability, by weaving her past into the tapestry of the cafe. But could she truly bear the thought of becoming transparent while worried about her future? Yeah, that sounds great, she managed to say, her voice almost breaking from the internal tug-of-war. Yet a flicker of resolve ignited within her. Perhaps owning her narrative could arm her against external adversities. As discussion swirled, Jessica's thoughts turned again to the message. She needed to know what was the urgency, and did her fate truly hang in the balance? The very prospect unraveled her focus, yet simultaneously became an impetus for action. She couldn't allow fear to dictate her life any longer. I need to take this call, she announced, her tone stealing with newfound determination. After a few quick glances exchanged amongst her friends, she stepped outside, shutting the door behind her. The quiet street greeted her with a gust of wind, offering a momentary reprieve from the chaos inside. As the phone rang, Jessica felt both anticipation and dread. Her heart pounded, not just from the call, but from the realization that her narrative no longer merely belonged to her business. It was about claiming her own life, vulnerabilities and anxieties alike. Let us find out what this is about, she whispered to herself, ready to confront not just her fears about the cafe, but her fear about her own worth. Just as an answer came through, a sudden roar of a nearby engine drowned it out. Jessica looked up to see a bulldozer rumbling toward her cafe, and her heart sank. Had someone made plans for her space without her knowledge? Was this the end of everything she had been building? The moment of revelation had arrived, or was it merely the beginning of something she never anticipated? The shrill growl of the bulldozer sent a jolt through Jessica, the weight of sudden alarm crashing against her frail composure. She took a step back as it inched forward, her mind racing with questions. Who had authorized this? Did they know her story? Her efforts? The cafe wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was her sanctuary, a reflection of her journey. She breathed deeply, grounding herself in the moment, fighting the urge to flee. This was no time for retreat. The fear that gripped her wasn't just about the physical space. It symbolized her worth, her dreams, her newly discovered self. Standing on the sidewalk, she felt both the weight of uncertainty and a flicker of defiance igniting within. With a quick glance at the looming machine, She dialed her landlord, her heart hammering against her ribcage. The phone rang, each tone amplifying her anxiety until it was like a drumbeat in her ears. Time felt suspended, mirroring her internal turmoil and escalating towards some desperate need for clarity. "Hello?" His voice resonated with calm nonchalance, starkly contrasting her turbulent mind. "Hi, it's Jessica. I received your message about the lease," she said, urgency weaving through her tone as she fought to sound composed. "Oh yes, Jessica. I was just about to reach out to you. There's been a great deal of interest in your property, more than expected. I needed to inform you that I've had some potential tenants drop by to view it." Those words landed like a heavy weight on her chest. Her thoughts spiraled. Potential tenants? She had barely begun to breathe life into her cafe, and already someone might be stepping in to claim it. "But I thought I could renew the lease. There hasn't been any discussion about it. I can assure you, I was planning to speak with you soon about reevaluating the terms. However, you must understand the market has shifted significantly," he replied, businesslike, devoid of warmth, grinding against the fraying edges of her patience. Jessica's mind raced, resisting the impulse to panic. "And what if I want to negotiate? There should be a chance for me to do that, right? I'm creating something meaningful here." Her voice faltered, the weight of her vulnerability creeping back in, but there was no turning back now. She had to advocate for herself fiercely, unrelentingly. "Your options are limited," the landlord said, his tone stiffening. "With intense interest and multiple bids, it's best to consider what's best for the property long-term. I'll give you till the end of the week to make a decision." "Thanks," she murmured. The dejected finality he imparted settled like lead in her stomach. She hung up. Clarity pierced through her fog of despair. This might either drive her into a corner or forge her resolve. The cafe was more than a venture. It was her essence, her growing courage woven into each cupcake and cappuccino served. With a newfound sense of purpose, Jessica returned to her friends, her stance steady despite the turbulence inside. "We need to make this happen," she announced as she opened the door, exuding determination. The chatter paused, heads turning to her, surprise illuminating their faces. "What happened?" Sarah asked, eyes wide. "I just had a talk with the landlord." Jessica then told them about the potential tenants and the looming threat. Instead of confusion, she could see resolve mirrored in their expressions point one by one. Her friends spoke up, their voices blending into a chorus of support and affirmation. They were ready to rally around her idea, to help her not just in making the cafe flourish but protect what she had built, a community of resilience. "Let us get to work," Lauren declared, determination seeping through the tension. "We will develop a campaign that showcases your story. We'll gather customers' testimonials, create a buzz, make this place irreplaceable." Jessica felt the fire inside her swell. Perhaps this was the moment she had needed, a chance to channel her fears into purpose instead of paralysis. "We'll not just make this cafe thrive. We'll make it a legacy," Jessica said, her voice steadying. But as plans began to form, a nagging voice urged caution. Could she truly harness this energy? Was she enough to fight against the odds stacked high? As they began brainstorming ideas, Jessica's thoughts lingered on the bulldozer and the message waiting in her inbox. If she could turn vulnerability into strength, perhaps the cafe was only the first chapter of a larger narrative waiting to unfold. Before she could begin laying out plans for immediate action, a loud crash echoed from the street, intertwining with the sound of thudding hearts and hopeful aspirations. The bulldozer roared back to life this time. It was not just machinery but a tangible threat to her passion. Unease settled in. What would it take to stand firm against that kind of demolition? And how much of herself was she willing to reveal to protect her dreams? The crash reverberated through the cafe, scattering her thoughts and sharpening her senses. Jessica instinctively glanced outside, her breath catching as she saw the bulldozer's massive shovel inching ever closer. Determination forced her feet to move. She had to act, and quickly. "Let us draft a plan," she said, her eyes meeting each friend's gaze, igniting a sense of urgency in the air. They huddled together at the cafe's back table, papers and pens strewn about as a canvas for their ideas. We need to make everything we do count. No half measures. The cafe was a sanctuary filled with the aroma of fresh coffee, warmth from the oven, and the hum of laughter. Yet now it felt like the calm before a storm. The tension in the room was palpable as her friends nodded, a shared commitment weaving through their ranks. "What if we host an event?" Sarah suggested, her voice steadying the flutter of concern that threatened to ripple through the group. A save the cafe night, local artists, live music. We create an experience that showcases not just the food but the community. Eyes lit up around the table, igniting Jessica's hope. "Yes," she responded, her voice gaining power with each word. "We'll invite the community to share stories about what this place means to them. Those personal connections will highlight everything the cafe stands for." They traded brainstorming sessions for actionable tasks, dividing responsibilities like a well-oiled machine. Names were scribbled down for local musicians, invitations would be sent out, and flyers would adorn neighborhood storefronts. Jessica felt the adrenaline surge within her. This was a tangible fight worth engaging. But with excitement came unsettling doubts. Deep within her, uncertainty clawed at her resolve. Was this enough to save her dream? The barrage of potential tenants loomed larger in her mind. "We have to highlight my journey too," she interjected, regaining focus. "It's not just about the cafe, but what it represents, a place where people can reinvent themselves." As her friends rallied around her, each contributed ideas, testimonials captured on video, photo stories shared on social media. It was an awakening. Jessica realized their passion mirrored her own. They were fighting for something beyond bricks and mortar. They were fighting for identity, community, and dreams. "Let us also reach out to the press," Lauren suggested, her fingers dancing over her phone screen, typing away frantically. "If we can get a local reporter interested, we can widen our reach." The thought electrified Jessica. It felt empowering to shift from fear to deliberate action. Here was an opportunity not only to defend her cafe, but to embrace her narrative, the struggle of someone who dared to dream amidst countless obstacles. As they finalized details, something pivotal simmered beneath the surface. She recognized the limits of her past hesitation. This wasn't about just holding on to the cafe. It was her chance to redefine herself, to confront the very uncertainty that had once paralyzed her. The evening wore on, plans solidifying into a blueprint for hope and defiance. A fire had been ignited, one buoyed by every laugh, every idea shared, every heartfelt promise to fight. Yet, as they looked around, the air thickened again. The bulldozer continued its relentless excavation of her fears, reminding her of the reality waiting just outside. "We need to promote this hard," Jessica declared, trying to ignore the ominous sound from the street. "But we also need to think beyond just this event. If I can turn this momentum into something lasting." Suddenly, her phone vibrated violently on the table, cutting through her musings. Glancing at the message, she felt her heart stutter. An email title flashed across the screen. "Final offer for current tenants." Ice crept up her spine as she stared at the screen. An ultimatum was now in the hands of her landlord. She felt her pulse quicken, reality crashing back. Her cafe, her story were on the line, and the fight was far from over. As she gathered her thoughts, preparing for another flood of strategy, one undeniable truth rang through her mind. The time had come to face her biggest fear head-on. What would she do when the moment of truth arrived? Thick silence filled the cafe as Jessica stared at her phone, the words of the email echoing in her mind like a drumbeat. It felt like standing on the precipice of a cliff, the ground crumbling beneath her feet. A choice had to be made, and fast. The weight of her dreams pressed down on her shoulders, the urgency awakening something fierce within her. "Stay focused," she whispered to herself, her breath steadying. "This isn't just about the cafe. It's about me." She turned back to her friends, who watched her with a mix of anticipation and concern. Fear had never been a favorite companion, but now it slipped under her skin, stirring determination like a raging fire. "We need to amplify our voices," she declared, shaking off her trepidation. "Let us make sure everyone knows what's happening. We're not just fighting for the cafe. We're fighting for the very essence of why it exists." They gathered around once more, fueled by a newfound passion. Jessica felt a surge of energy coursing through her. This was hers to shape. She assigned each friend specific roles, their familiarity with social media becoming invaluable. Sarah, you take lead on social platforms. We need to create hashtags and engaging content to spread the word out there. Absolutely, Sarah affirmed, her eyes glistening with excitement. We'll showcase the stories, the laughter, and the impact this place has made on all of us. Jessica turned to Lauren, who had already pulled up her phone, ready to act. And you, Lauren, start drafting a press release. We need to present our story compellingly. Let us make it impossible for the media to ignore us. As the group fell back into focused discussion, Jessica's initial nerves were replaced by motivation, her mind racing with ideas. They brainstormed the many angles they could exploit, how Jessica's journey had transformed not only her life but hundreds of others who found solace within those walls. This wasn't merely a cafe. It was a beacon for those seeking belonging, a crucible for budding talents. By aligning her personal narrative with the cafe, she could paint a picture no one could resist. Each story shared, each experience recounted, drove home her message even further. But amidst the fervor of her plans, a darker thought lingered. Would it be enough? Each minute spent planning pushed her deeper into her own vulnerabilities, the crippling fear of inadequacy resurfacing as insecurities crawled back into her conscience, reminding her of her past failures. Jessica, relax. She shook her head, trying to dislodge the doubts swirling within. Feel the strength rising. Lean into it. Hey, remember that local celebrity who visited for the coffee tasting? Sarah chimed in, jolting Jessica from her self-deprecating spiral. Do you think he'd help us get traction? A spark ignited in her chest. I could reach out, Jessica replied, twinging with excitement and hesitation. It was a daunting endeavor, but if he agreed, it could broaden their reach dramatically. Do it. What do you have to lose? Lauren encouraged, an unmistakable fire in her eyes that punctuated her words. That was it. She had to confront her fear directly. The email, the landlord, the lifeline she so desperately needed was in her grasp if only she would allow herself to reach for it. Taking a deep breath, she typed out a message to the celebrity, sharing her story and the urgency of their situation. Each word felt like stepping onto shaky ground, yet the lingering heaviness in her chest lightened with each keystroke. Done, she said, exhaling a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Now we wait and continue pushing. The cafe hummed with life again as they rallied together, laughter and hope filling the air. But her gut twisted with an unsettling awareness. The final offer hung over them like a sword, sharp and unyielding, ready to strike at any moment. Determination reigned, yet uncertainty lingered, twisting into something palpable. Would help come? Or would she find her dreams slipping through her fingers once again? The answer loomed, and it demanded she stake everything on a leap of faith. Before the group could dwell on the unknown, a voice pierced through the persistent noise, sending a chill through her spine. Jessica, we need to talk. Now, the thrust of confrontation had arrived, and there was no backing down. She met the voice's owner, her landlord, who stood at the cafe's door, arms crossed. In that moment, Jessica's heart raced. This was it. The showdown she had to face. What would she choose now? Jessica squared her shoulders, meeting her landlord's steely gaze with a resolve she hadn't anticipated feeling. The cafe buzzed around her, but in that moment, the world shrank down to just the two of them. She took a measured step forward, her heart drumming insistently, but her mind raced with strategies. She had fought for this space, nurtured it like a seedling, and now it was time to confront the looming threat with clarity and purpose. What's going on? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady, as she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture that hinted at her inner turmoil. I need to talk to you about your lease, he stated bluntly, scanning the room filled with patrons. His demeanor was rigid, the lines on his face carved deep with the weight of business decisions. This place isn't working out for me. You're behind on rent, and I can't keep waiting. Each word felt like a punch, reverberating through her. She had anticipated this confrontation, Yet the actuality struck her with a furious wave of vulnerability. "We're launching a campaign. We can turn this around," she asserted. The conviction in her voice surprised even her. She wasn't merely pleading anymore. "Campaigns don't pay bills," he countered. His tone clipped, a bird of prey circling its territory. "I can help you find something smaller, cheaper, if that's what you need." Her thoughts whirled. Each suggestion he made closely tethered her to failure, and she felt a fierce spark ignite in her belly. This was more than just a negotiation. This was about her identity, her journey. "This cafe has meant too much to too many people to let it go. It's changed lives, including mine. You have no idea what this place represents." His eyes pitched downward, just briefly. "Sentiment doesn't pay rent, Jessica." She felt the familiar weight of self-doubt creep in, but she pushed it back fiercely. If she was going to battle, then she needed to wield her strongest asset, her narrative. "If you give us a little time, just a few weeks, I can show you that we're worth the investment. Please, I'm reaching out to the community and inviting them back in. They love this place." For a split second, doubt flickered across his face, but he quickly masked it with an impassive shield. "I like you, Jessica, but it's business. I need to make smart choices." In that moment, clarity washed over her. This wasn't merely about keeping the cafe, it was about proving she was capable enough to hold her own. "Then let us make it smart together. I'll show you the positive impact this cafe has had on our neighborhood. People are ready to rally behind something they love." She thought of the messages she sent, the stories about the cafe's significance, the connection it had forged with people. "You might find that sentiment translates into profit." He raised an eyebrow, skepticism reining back in. "You think a few heartfelt stories will change my mind?" "No," she replied with surprising calmness. "But passion can. I just reached out to that celebrity we hosted not long ago. If he gets on board, it could really draw attention and draw customers back. Let the story unfold." Silence stretched between them, thick with possibilities. She could sense a crack forming in the landlord's resolve, a flicker of curiosity piercing his business veneer. "All right," he finally said, crossing his arms, though he didn't seem as firm as before. "I'll give you 2 weeks. But if things don't change, you'll need to vacate." 2 weeks is all I need," she assured him, a surge of conviction filling her. This was her moment to stand tall, not just as a business owner, but as a woman who fought for what she believed in. As he walked away, her heart raced not from fear, but from an invigorating sense of empowerment. The ground beneath her didn't feel as crumbled anymore. She felt rooted, ready to embrace the tidal wave of work ahead. With her friends watching from an end table, she summoned them over to strategize. "This is more than just saving the cafe. It's about leveraging everything we have: our stories, our creativity, our community spirit." But as they dove into planning next steps, Jessica couldn't shake the gnawing anxiety that lingered. Would the celebrity respond? Would her endeavors be enough to sway not only the landlord but also the fate she was desperately trying to shape? The air hummed with energy, yet doubt flickered like a candle flame within her. In 2 weeks, the illusion of security crumbled. She would either soar or fall. But there were still so many questions left unanswered. The clock was ticking, and they needed a plan as they scribbled notes and tossed around ideas. The cafe door swung open, and Jessica's stomach dropped. Someone stood in the threshold who could change everything. The local celebrity she had reached out to was there, and from the look on his face, it seemed he had come to talk. Jessica stood at the cafe, the sunlight pouring in through the windows, casting a warm glow over the space that had once felt like a tumultuous battlefield. The atmosphere buzzed with renewed energy. Her friends were busy setting up the details for the Save the Cafe event they had planned. Each idea exchanged around the table felt like threads weaving them closer together. Collaboration was sparking transformation within and among them. The arrival of the local celebrity, however, sent a fresh wave of tension coursing through her veins. Her heart raced as he entered, a mixture of hope and anxiety fluttering in her stomach. Would he support their mission, or was she yet again facing the daunting specter of failure? "Hey, everyone!" he exclaimed, his charisma lighting up the room. His commanding presence felt reassuring as he stepped closer to Jessica, focusing his attention on her. I heard about your story and the upcoming event. I want to help." In that instant, Jessica felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment wash over her. This wasn't just a fleeting moment. This was months of hard work, vulnerability, and the determination to embrace her truth bearing fruit. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Your support means everything. We're trying to give the cafe a rebirth, not just for me but for everyone it represents." As she shared her vision, something shifted. The sincerity of her words resonated with everyone in the room, reaffirming the notion that passion could indeed transform circumstances. The celebrity contributed his ideas, encouraging outreach through his social channels and even participating in the storytelling aspect of the event. He would help turn this fight into an unforgettable experience of connection and community. With each passing hour, Jessica felt a sense of solid confidence building within her. The cafe was more than just a business. It was a reflection of her identity, the tapestry of her experiences sewn together with the dreams of the friends she had gathered around her. The fear that had once held her captive began to dissolve, replaced by a palpable excitement as the Save the Cafe night approached. Anticipation pulsed through her, electrifying every moment. Supported by her friends and the celebrity, she showcased not just her culinary skills, but the stories that stood behind them. The blend of flavors became a celebration of their intertwined lives, each dish telling a part of her journey. The night arrived in full swing, laughter and conversation filling the air like a symphony of camaraderie. Jessica watched as attendees engaged with the interactive experiences they had crafted, sharing their own stories alongside her culinary delights. The collective warmth radiating from the gathering was more powerful than she could have imagined. When the night's culmination revealed a flurry of support and interest in the cafe, tears brimmed in her eyes not from sadness or fear, but from fulfillment and recognition. The patrons shared testimonials, relaying how the cafe had become a cherished haven, a space where they too felt empowered and connected. As the evening drew to a close, Jessica stood outside the cafe, her heart swelling with pride. This wasn't just the survival of her business. It had transformed into a community venture, a shared tapestry of resilience and impact. With a renewed sense of self, Jessica recognized her achievement wasn't bound solely to the cafe's survival. She had conquered significant personal battles. The insecurities that once crippled her had become her greatest allies in a journey of transformation. Her friends, once faded by competition and jealousy, had emerged stronger than ever. In the weeks that followed, Jessica successfully negotiated her lease renewal with her landlord, showcasing the community's tremendous support and the vibrant life cultivated within those walls. The cafe flourished, not only as a destination for culinary delights but as a beacon of empowerment for creativity, embracing vulnerability and collaboration. Jessica demonstrated that the path to success was not a solitary race but rather a journey enriched by the shared experiences of those around her. She had accomplished not just her dream of owning a cafe but had transformed into a leader who could inspire others to embrace their narratives without fear. Standing at the cafe's entrance one sunny morning, a fresh bouquet of flowers adorning the counter, she reflected on how far she had come. The echoes of her old fears were just that, echoes, blurred by the confidence she now wore like armor. She felt recognized and respected, not only for her pastry skills but for the journey that had shaped her. As Jessica looked out at the bustling street, she smiled, grounded in the knowledge that she had achieved her dreams through vulnerability, collaboration, and unwavering tenacity. This was her moment, her life beautifully stitched together, and she was ready to seize whatever came next. And as this captivating journey concludes, consider how your own story could be shaped into something extraordinary. Are you ready to define your journey? Are you poised to conquer your fears? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.